Sand Hill Road, like we tried pitching people to invest in an internet company. Most of the VCs we pitched to had never used the internet.
Do you remember some of the VC firms you went to on Sand Hill?
I remember most of the time we wouldn't take a meeting, and if they did take the meeting, they were pretty bored and not said like who's made money in the internet. No, we're like no one. Okay, but the sea change occurred when Netscape went public.
Yeah.
So, but the first thing I tried to do was not start a company. I tried to get a job at Netscape, but they didn't reply to me.
Oh no!
Oh man!
So I tried hanging out in the lobby at Netscape. I don't know who to talk to. I was really too shy to talk to anyone. I don't know. So it's like, okay, I can't get a job at the only internet company that that does internet software. So then I'll try writing software. So that's kind of what happened there. Yeah, and then like I said, my brother came down and joined. This is like late '95, and then in January '95, I think it was there was a lot more interest in the internet stuff following the Netscape IPO, and the software was more impressive, I guess. So then more David Dow invested. So they're VC firm on Sand Hill Road, and they invested, I think it was like $3 million for effectively 60% of the company.
Wow.
Which we thought was crazy. They're like, well, they're going to give us the money for nothing? They must be mad. Yeah, so this seemed like crazy that they would give so much money for a company that consisted at the time of about 5 people. Like literally, I think 5 people at the time. So, but anyway, it worked out well for them in the end. So we hired a lot more people. We built out the service, and then we also ended up writing a bunch of software to bring the newspapers online. So Knight Ridder, New York Times Company, Hearst, all became investors and customers. And at one point, Zip2 was responsible for a significant section of the New York Times Company website. Yeah, so I got to know the media industry pretty well, and but over what really happened with Zip2 is it effectively got too much. There was too much control by the existing media companies. So they had too many board seats and too much voting control, and that they kept trying to push the company down directions that made no sense. So Zip2 actually had really good software. I'd say software that's comparable, in some ways more advanced than, say, a Yahoo or Excite at the time, but it was just not being used properly, and it was all being forced through media companies who would then not use it. So it's like, it's like, okay, we've got the best technology, but it's not being deployed properly. So, but fortunately, Compaq came along, and they Compaq had acquired Digital Equipment, and Digital Equipment had owned AltaVista, which at the time was probably the best search engine. So they thought their idea was they will combine AltaVista with a bunch of other internet companies and try to create a competitor to Yahoo or Excite. That was Excite used to be a big thing, amazingly, and Yahoo used to be a big thing.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Now it's like owned by Verizon or something.
Yeah.
Then there was AOL.
AOL. Back then.
Yahoo's a crazy story. They, they failed to acquire Google twice. Microsoft offered them like $40 billion or something, and they turned it down.
And then Alibaba saved them out of nowhere.
The Alibaba stake was worth more than the whole company at one point.
By a huge amount.
Right.
It was basically a proxy for Alibaba shares trading.
Yeah, no, exactly. But at one point, at that time, like if you go back to say 98, 99, Yahoo seemed like an unstoppable juggernaut.
Yeah.
Like literally, like this company will, is a behemoth. Nobody could possibly defeat them. But anyway, and where's Compaq today? Yeah. So, but that was their idea. Which is, at least it could have made sense.
Come on!
Yeah. What are you guys doing?
We're recording a podcast.
Yeah. How do you want me to join?
Pull up a chair. So what do you remember about Zip2?
Yeah, we remember.
Yeah. So, but then the internet came along, became this huge thing. I mean, it was always there, but it became a big deal. And then Elon was working in Silicon Valley, and as I remember, I overheard a meeting where some of the Yellow Pages companies were thinking of doing sort of online Yellow Pages. And
no, why would I have been in a meeting?
I don't know. This is a long time ago. But anyway, you called me up and you said you think you can do a better job. So we think we can do a better job.
Maybe you made that up to try and get Kimball interested.
How would I be in a meeting with Yellow Pages company?
I have no idea. That's what I remember.
No.
But what's your version of that?
Sleepless nights.
I didn't even know any Yellow Pages.
Okay. But so it was like I think April of 1995. We started working on it, and the I guess it was pretty simple. Take mapping and there were other companies trying to do it with a very technology of sort of what was called vector-based mapping, which is what we all use there, where the map is actually alive, not just a picture.
That was very time.
I think we were the first. I know there were other people putting maps on the internet, but I think we were the first to put vector-based mapping, which is what the kind of technology is today on the internet, and door-to-door directions. So it was cool. I remember my brother and I pressing go on his server at our office, and it took about 60 seconds for the first door-to-door directions to come up on the screen. And it was amazing. Yeah. You're like, this is incredible. Door-to-door directions to anywhere. This is amazing. And
Definitely seemed amazing at the time.
Definitely seemed amazing at the time.
Yeah, it's like.
This is like an impossible thing. It was so cool. And using Java, Elon had coded a interactive map, which again, all super normal stuff today, but the ability to just draw a square in or zoom out, that was just unheard of technology.
Draw a square.
Yeah, you remember that? It was like a little red square on the Java map.
On a browser, that was unusual.
Yeah.
Yes. You just
Well, you cheated if you're using Java applets.
Yeah, this is Java.
I think it got some sort of recognition because it was the most advanced Java application on Java at the time, because it was so ridiculously hard. It was a really crappy technology at the time, but this on it.
The thing is that if you downloaded the Java applet, we could transmit the vector data, not just a bitmap, and this is when everyone was on a modem.
Right.
So if somebody's on 28 kilobits modem, or trying to download a map image would take forever. Whereas if you had downloading the vector data set locally rendered using the Java applet was relatively speaking fast. That's what makes it smart.
Yeah.
I mean, even vector maps, even Google Maps using RAS maps a few years ago. It seems like very ahead of its time.
Well, we were the first. I believe the two of us were the first humans to see maps and door-to-door directions on the internet, which I think is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
How Garmin came out? When did Garmin first launch?
Well, they were an internet-based, right? So you could. Actually, Garmin was even a player at this one. It was Navtech was the place. That's where we got data from, and they were building it for Hertz and Everlast, which came out a few years later. Those things don't use any GPS systems. Really, really bad technology, but the actual mapping data was amazing. And so we took that and applied it to the internet. We were 22 and 23 at the time. It had cost them $300 million to build this data, and they gave it to us for free with a simple contract saying, if you ever make any money on this, you got to come forward. Yeah. So
That's amazing.
So it's amazing what happens if you ask. That's nicely. And the also part was these guys had been working so hard on the tech, and no one had ever seen what they were doing because it was not on the internet and it was not being used for Hertz, and so it was just they were excited that someone would use the data and it would take people that they've been working on.
So how did you guys get the engineering to pull this off? It sounds like you were so young, you didn't have any help to build this cutting edge piece of technology. Did you teach yourselves or
from I don't know what age, but you published your first
the Blast Star game, right?
Yeah, when he was 12.
Did you write any?
I wrote up games. and then like occasionally like software for people like ask for software.
You also work for a video game company.
Yeah, funny. It was called
Rocket Science.
Yeah,
that's funny.
By the way, we took a SpaceX tour yesterday. It was insane.
Thank you for that. That was amazing. Yeah, it was so good.
It's like Batman's lair in there. That's right. It's really cool.
Really amazing.
But it gives you perspective on what Tesla's doing because the technology is so advanced, and there's information there, like the at least thinking now fuse from SpaceX when they couldn't get the power output, right? Kept burning the fuse and the performance models. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you'll see the SpaceX tech applied to Tesla. I think there's one joint employee between SpaceX and Tesla, and it's the materials engineer.
What about Elon?
Of course, Elon. In addition to Elon, because there's just not that many humans on the planet that know how to do this stuff.
No. Well, it sounded like back in the old days. Was it just Elon?
I made it look like HTML, but it wasn't mine.
Not recently. We don't money, so you can plug in more. So actual software.
And you worked through the night, right? You just never. According to May's book, you just never slept. I don't know.
I mean, we lived in a little office. I think this address was 470 Sherman Way in Palo Alto. It was probably.
It was about the size of this one here.
Yeah, it was like 15 feet wide by 30 feet long with a little closet in the back. And we would we couldn't afford a place to sleep. Or like a house or an apartment, so we would sleep in it, and it had a couch that was a futon, and we would pull out the futon, take turns sleeping on the futon on the floor. Well, they put a lot of nights. I used the futon at night, and we had to code it at night because the server, when it was live, needed to be functional, and we just had it for the Bay Area at the time, so we were just kind of making sure that the people in the Bay Area could use it. And then we had a little mini fridge cookings on it, and we'd cook simple things, like pasta sauce and pasta and things like that. That would be as cheap as dirt. People think it's expensive to eat real food. It's actually really cheap.
Yeah.
You cook vegetables, pasta, and
bean stuff.
Beans, super cheap. It's absolutely the cheapest. And then we would get Jack in the Box, which I still kind of shiver a little. And I haven't eaten there for probably 20 years or longer, maybe 22 years. And I can still suck the entire menu.
Yeah, we cycled through the menu at Jack in the Box because it's a few blocks from.
And 24 hours.
I tried to get dinner at Palo Alto after 10.
0.
Yeah.
So did they know you very well at Jack in the Box?
Well, they didn't really. No. And I remember one time I got a milkshake, and I was so tired. I was just needed to get some sugar for the rest of the night, and there was something in it.
Oh no!
And I remember just flicking it out and just pretending it didn't exist, and just kept drinking my milkshake.
Oh, that's horrible.
It was like that. Kind of like not in the zone to go argue about a milkshake, but I don't want to not drink milkshake.
I'm probably it was so cheap that they had some people I think died of food poisoning.
Right around that time when they got into a food poisoning scare.
And so it was just very cheap to eat there. And I figured they probably have taken some action because they're after the poisoning. So hopefully there's just a little bit of funny stuff. It's funny.
You run out of things to eat because after the 17th chicken fajita pita, you're like
chicken fajita pita.
Can't do it.
The teriyaki bowl. It's actually it was edible. It was so bad.
Which one? What?
The teriyaki bowl.
Teriyaki bowl wasn't bad. There was the sort of sourdough grilled cheese thing that wasn't bad.
Yeah, I honestly didn't mind it.
Those are the good old days, right?
I mean, it was honestly good days. I mean, we were just hoping that people would let us stay in the country. We weren't that worried about what we were eating. We were just doing everything we could to get some support the company. We didn't really I didn't understand the venture capital that much, so we were doing a seed round, angel round, and doing our best to talk to everyone and anyone we could find. We had a very good friend with us, Greg Curry, who's who was older than us, who helps out and put a little money in as well. And then I did a lot of work to just network with people. I think our first salesman who was selling Yellow Pages ads for us, a real estate agent who knew another person who knew this other person who helped us raise or put together. We ended up not doing the round, but put together a round of like $200,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then
we part of it or something. I don't know.
But I had Java map, which was really quite impressive. I mean, if you've never seen Google Map or Yahoo Map before, it's really a remarkable thing to see. We started to go to we some audiences with venture capitalists, and just went from we were starving, we had no car, we had it broken.
The wheel fell off.
Huh?
Wheel fell off.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Was the one you did
across the street?
Yeah, I know some pictures of.
Yes, I think it's still there's a car in the road at Page Lane.
Literally, the wheel came off.
And got
literally in the intersection.
Just drove it without the wheel to the side.
It's pretty much time for the junkyard at that point because the whole car is just falling apart. So yeah, it's like the point at which the wheel falls off. It's time to go to the junkyard.
You make the video, 2 in the morning.
No, that was way more stressful. That was way later because we already had the deal, but we were not. I don't know if you were, but I was not legally in America. So I was legally there.
I was legally there, but I was meant to be doing student work.
Oh yeah, right.
I had a student work visa.
Yeah, you were supposed to be doing PhD in Stanford and decided not to.
So I was trying to do work, sort of supporting whatever, I don't know.
Whereas I actually I try to get a visa, but there's just no visa you can get to start up.
Yeah, fortunately nobody was paying you anything either.
And so we ended up getting we got a deal from Moore David out and this well-respected VC firm, and we had to break the news to them that we took the bus to get to the offices. We don't have a car and we don't have an apartment and we're illegal.
No, you're illegal.
and so,
but I was legal, but my visa was going to run out in 2 years.
Okay,
Student visa.
Yeah, we need to get sorted. And so the lead investors from Canada, they knew the whole challenge of being an immigrant, and we had Canadian passports. And so they funded the company and they gave us some money to each buy a car, and they gave us a salary so we could rent an apartment, and they got a visa through the company. But the morning we were supposed to present to the partners, I went to Toronto because my mother was freaking out because she needed her computer fixed. And this is brutal. So I flew out there planning to fly back on Sunday. It was on Monday, and I get to the airport on Sunday, and the border control they call me out. They're like, you're going down to work. You're not going down for travel. And I was like, no, I'm going down to work. Actually, no, I didn't. I'm not going to work because I think that's what I was supposed to say. They told me to say anything. And so they directed me from the border. So we do this really the next morning. And so a friend of mine came and drove me across the border. And we went to the Buffalo border and just said, we're going to go see the Dylan show. And the border control guy was like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
I don't know. Late night from Buffalo to San Francisco, and we made the meeting in the morning. So
yeah, but technically you were not going down to work because that would have required major being.
Yeah, I wasn't paid anything. Yeah, technically we weren't actually. No, you're right.
You're not actually breaking the law.
We were not breaking the law because we were not being paid. Yeah.